Afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. I hope you're doing well. It is Monday here in Austin, and it is nice to be back after really kind of being off for the last week. Took a little R&R, but then also got a little cold along the way. But anyway, it's good to be back in the office today. It does not mean we did not get a lot of stuff done while we were out of town. Closed on a chunk of assets. We wrap up that trade this week because we've been doing it in basically three funding amounts. So it's a total of, I think, 33 new notes that we're purchasing for our own portfolio. These are all owner-occupied. These are all the borrowers have made payments in the last 12 months of some sort, most of them in the last 6 months of something. Decent-looking assets as well. So we're pretty stoked about these. We funded on a trade of about 19 assets about 2 weeks ago. We've already started to get correspondence from the borrowers on that too. So this will be a big push. I think we'll end up closing on closer to about 150 total before the last quarter, before the year is out, just in the last fourth quarter of the year. So pretty stoked about that. Staff's done a tremendous job when it comes to doing the due diligence and breaking it down. So we're really excited about that. But it is hard to believe, wow, the year is just flying by. Literally, we are just about a month out from our Note Mastermind group taking place here in December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd here in Austin, Texas. So we're a month from that. I'm 3 weeks from 2 weeks from our final fast track training we have available. 2 weeks we're going to be doing it in LA, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The date of that specifically is the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. If you want to get a seat to that, let me know. We've got a couple seats available, but it's going to be out in Los Angeles Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I know it's a little bit different instead of a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but we get people that say, hey, can we do something differently? And so we're making it the one time that we're not going to be doing it on a weekend. So we figured that would be work. We're going to be out in California anyway. Really excited to be speaking at the Laughlin Associates event here in a week and a half. And then this week is going to be a busy week too. Be flying out to Ohio, to Cincinnati for the Ohio REIA Expo that Vina Jones Cox books on every year. So be excited to be speaking twice in front of 400 to 500 real estate investors out in Cincinnati. So, but it is Monday, and today is a busy day. It is nice out. You have to give a big shout out because over the last couple of days, since we were not in the office, Houston won the championship. There you go Astros. I'm a big fan of the AL West Division champs. Yes, I'm a big fan of the San Francisco Giants, who were also very happy that the Dodgers did not win this time around. But anyway, keep winning those division titles. The Giants will keep the rings. But anyway, congrats to the Astros. Baseball season is over, so we have to mourn that a little bit. But what a great World Series. And if you think about what the Astros have gone through in the last 6 years, oh my gosh, they were like the worst team in baseball, 100-plus losses 3 years in a row. But they did that because they used the benefits from being the worst to be able to pick up great draft picks and literally propel themselves to where they're at this year. And it works out. It takes a lot of belief to go through some, troubling times. And I think a lot of similarities being drawn from that, especially if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a real estate investor, if you're leaving your job, you may be going on tough times because you're not making as much income or you're trying to build something up, or you're scared about that. So you're working before you can let go. You've got to have your income replaced. So there's still always a transition period to do that. So you've got to take time while you're at your regular job doing the things in your spare time, the 7 to 2s, the 7 p.m. to 2 a.m., as Gary Vaynerchuk likes to say, to build up your income, to get your side hustle to replace your full-time hustle. And that's not always the easiest thing. And a lot of people struggle with that. And, the Astros are a good analogy that a lot of people even struggle. You're going to struggle before you find success. I don't think many people I think success right out of the gates is a very rare thing. People that often have a silver spoon in their mouth, and this is nothing against them, that they're born that way, it's great. They don't always have the most amount of success because they don't have the need, they don't have the drive to overcome a lot of times the hurdles, the pitfalls, the lack of funding, the lack of resources, and you have to really dive into some things. So always excited to see people go from rags, the whole rags to riches story. you can say that the Astros definitely did that. The rags to riches, the worst to the first. That's what I love about kind of small market team. I wouldn't say Houston's a small market team, but when they're beating the Bostons, they're beating the Yankees, beating the Dodgers, these all big market teams, and they do it. You do more with less. And a lot of us note investors out there, you sometimes have to do more with less. You got to figure out ways to make things happen. That's why today's topic on this episode is all about cash for keys. Okay, it's all about kind of creative ways to avoid having to foreclose. Now, one of the major strategies we've talked about is you always want to try to get the borrower to reinstate. We've talked about that in the previous episode. Okay. And once again, thank you to all that listen to us on the Facebook Lives and those that listen to us on the podcast. We appreciate that on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music Play, all those. Thank you so much. I mean, we're really, I think as of just now, I checked, we're at over 32,000 downloads in our first 2 months, which is just, it's exciting. But anyway, as a note investor, you always try to get reinstatements first. And if that's not going to work, then you try to do some sort of thing, either modification, try to figure something out to help your borrowers. Well, sometimes your borrowers just can't afford to stay in a home anymore. And you just have to come to that realization, hey, it's sometimes you got to have that come to Jesus meeting. Like, listen, Mr. Ms. Borrower, your payments are $360. If you can't afford $360 a month, we need to talk about something else. We need to talk about looking at alternative ways, and it may not be keeping you in your home. Now, one thing that we'll discuss tomorrow is a little bit about maybe if you want to bring somebody on to do like a loan assumption. We'll get into that tomorrow. But today, the thing to keep in mind is some things that you can do relatively easy is just offer up a cash for key scenario, okay? Cash for keys is a pretty simple thing to do. And we could consider it a deed in lieu, basically, is what we also call deed in lieu foreclosure. And what does that mean? Well, basically, you, the bank, are agreeing with the borrower to have them deed the property over to you in lieu of you foreclosing. It's an expedited thing. It speeds things up. A lot of times we do call it cash for keys because we try to give them some cash to incentivize them. And I've done deals that have been anywhere from $500 cash for keys all the way up to $10,000 cash for keys. And then we've done a lot of stuff in between. Now, I've heard our friend Bill McCarr with Paper Source talk about he's only had like one foreclosure in all his years because he uses a lot of cash for keys and things like that to avoid that. And that's a great thing. We've had a few more foreclosures on this end. We've tried the cash for keys with different borrowers, and sometimes borrowers just stick their head in the sand. They fight you tooth and nail. The $10,000 one that we've done was a borrower in Martin County, Florida. They fought us initially. We offered a loan mod. They didn't want to do that. We went down the trail to foreclosure. We got to the final end, and they were like, well, we'd like to do a consent to judgment at this point. And their attorney's like, we'd like to get some cash. I'm like, okay, fine. So we agreed on $10,000 because the asset had appreciated so much. But there were some things, some stipulations involved with that they had to leave the property in good condition. They had to sweep it out. They had to, make sure the power was on. They had to leave that stuff in place so that we could test everything out. And then they didn't get their $10,000 until my realtor did the walkthrough. And when the realtor did the walkthrough, then she got the keys, all the codes, and then handed over the check. And it's done the same way. With the $500 we did, the same thing. They had to go clean out the property, okay? And before we handed the check over. We had one lady we gave $1,000 to. She did not leave the property in good shape, all right? She could have gotten $2,000, but we still gave her $1,000 because she met and agreed to the deed in lieu instead of us having to go on and continue the foreclosure. Saved us some time, saved us money in the long run, because $1,000 is still what I would have spent on the remaining attorney fees to finish the foreclosure up. So it was just easier to do that and save us 90 days, because that's what cash for keys, deed in lieu is all about, getting control of the asset. The borrower's not going to reperform. The borrower's not going to pay on time. You have to expedite and try to take control of the property as soon as possible. Why? Well, it's nice that they're living in the property because hopefully they'll keep it up. But a lot of times, if they're not going to fight you, they may not be staying there. The last thing you want is vandalism to take place. The last thing you want to do is get upset with you and take a sledgehammer to the sheetrock. You don't want to pour concrete down the thing. This also incentivizes them to kind of leave the property in good condition if you can. All right. Now, one thing that you want to keep in mind too is you're not just going to hand that over to it. You want to have some stipulations have in place. Okay. I used cash for keys on a property that we bought. The foreclosure auction actually closed. Actually, it wasn't the foreclosure auction. It's here in Austin, actually Pflugerville. We bought the house. The spouse, it was a weird situation. Husband and wife. Husband will live in the property, but the spouse gets the right to sell the house. Husband was not going to show up to sign, but he had to. We incentivized him and said, listen, I know you're in a bad situation. You're going through a divorce. Look, I can either have you sign this or I can come after you, and it's going to be a very long time for you guys, and I will come after you for everything you owe. So why don't we just make this happen? Why don't I give you $3,000? I'll give you $1,000 when you sign, show up to sign. I'll give you $1,000 to be out of the property by this time, and then I'll give you $1,000 to leave it in good shape. And I gave him a week after we signed to get out. Well, sure enough, when I showed up the date to move out, he had not moved out yet. He was still sitting there. Well, you want to talk about being irate and pissed off? I was extremely irate and pissed off. I said, listen, you've got till tonight to get out of here if you want to get into this thing. Otherwise, I'm going to call the cops. And you're now trespassing. Sure enough, next morning I come by, a lot of stuff out in the front yard, still stuff in the house, but he's not there. So I change the locks. I pull everything else out, put in the front yard. All right. And we lock it up. And then he calls me, hey, man, I need to get my other $2,000 from this. Is just signed. It's like, you don't get the $2,000 because you did not move out in a timely fashion, and you did not leave the house in good condition. All right. You're lucky you're going to get the $1,000. And you need to go by the realtor's office and pick up the $1,000 because that's all you're going to get. And if you trash the house, believe me, you're not going to get any of it. So you need to be smart with that. And those are not the easiest conversations. Sometimes they are very easy. I had another borrower that reached out and said, well, I'll give you the property back for $5,000. I'm like, okay, $5,000. Let me think about that. And I looked and checked their taxes, and they owed $4,500 in back taxes. So I called them up and said, okay, I will give you $500, but I'll give you $5,000, but I'm going to pay your taxes with, what's owed that you should have been paying the last 3 years with that money as well. So I'm only going to give you $500 cash and take the other $4,500 and pay the taxes off. She's like, okay, I'll still take the $500. Sometimes you need away with a few $100. Sometimes it's all about people are scared about the move. They don't have the money to move. So some things we've done, we paid the deposit on an apartment complex for them. Hey, I'll pay the first month, last month's deposit for you to get you out. Or we've hired a moving truck. We have done a variety of different things. There's one here in Round Rock, Texas. We did the rehab to on a property that people were losing on. We gave them $3,000, and we paid for them to have a moving truck. We rented it, picked it up for them, met them at the house. They helped them get packed up. They left, dropped it off. We made sure we knew where they were going, helped them get everything moved in, and returned the truck. All right. So thanks, Michelle. I appreciate Michelle Aptis here. It's always good and relevant info. Thank you. So it's just sometimes a conversation. Now, if you're not doing your own loss mitigation, which I highly recommend, you probably should be hiring an attorney like the law office of Daniel Singer to do it for you. Tell the people in that office, tell the people that are you're hiring, tell the people that work for your servicer, they're doing it. Hey, I am not opposed to cash for keys in case of a deed in lieu. All right. I'm not opposed to this. I'm not opposed to it because literally, if you can pay $1,000 now and wait. $1,000 now to get the property, get control of the property in the next 2 weeks versus having to wait 4 months or 5 months to fish everything out. It's well worth it. The velocity of your capital goes up tremendously because of that $1,000. I mean, trust me, you'll spend that anyway in servicing costs and attorney fees over that $1,000. So you might as well spend it now and get the hold of the property, get action taken care of and done things like that. Now, a lot of times people will ask for one thing like, listen, no, I'm not going to pay you that because you owe this in taxes and the property's not in good shape. I'm just going to give you, I'll give you $500. I'll give you, I won't come after you. I won't foreclose on you. There's a variety of different ways to have that kind of conversation. But that's why you want your servicer, your attorneys, your special servicer to handle that for you, because it's important to make sure it's handled properly. Yes, there's an agreement. Yes, you want to make sure of a couple of things too. You never want to give cash for keys or offer a deed in lieu if there is a large amount of liens behind your first lien. Okay, now how do you check that? Well, that's why you pull an O&E report, an ownership and encumbrance report. You check the title, get a title update done. Because if you accept the deed in lieu or cash for keys, then you're filing a release of lien. Well, if there's a junior lien, a second lien, or a third lien, or a fourth lien, those all now come into first position. Now you can't foreclose those things out. Now you got to pay those things off a lot of times. So you will not accept cash for keys if there is a junior lien. Now what you can do is accept a cash for judgment, or cash for consent of judgment is what I'm trying to get at. And that's still feasible. Then the borrower turns a property over to you, consenting to the judgment. All right. They agree, yes, I owe the $120,000 or $150,000 or whatever it is. I'm agreeing to that. That piece of paper, that consent to judgment, allows your attorney still to go foreclose and wipe out the junior liens in a foreclosure auction. We've done consent to judgments. We've paid for that to help speed things up. It makes a lot more sense, if you can, to try to get that stuff taken care of as best you can. Any questions from anybody that's watching this on the Facebook Live, as we're live streaming this? We are, man, it is going to be a busy week here. One of the great things that we've done too is giving you an idea of the timing of stuff. So like we've bought these assets for the last 90 days, letter outreach, we've servicing transferred over, for those contract for deeds that were vacant, we're now, doing cancellation of contracts on those, getting those things listed for sale. And the borrowers that are occupied that aren't paying, well, we're going to offer up, deed in lieu cash for keys, and then we're just going to foreclose. I mean, we're getting to the end of the year. We want the majority of these things to have some sort of resolution in the next 60 days, if not sooner. And so one of the things that we're getting, those that are making payments, that's great. We can work with them. We've had a borrower that reached out, I'm not going to make my payment, and the statement doesn't look correct. Well, that doesn't justify you not making a payment. Okay. If you're not going to make a payment, we're not going to mess around with you. When you're going to threaten that the property's going to get trashed out, I'm just going to send it to my attorney. So that's kind of funny. We've had that happen a couple times. So it is what it is. You're in the asset business, not in the people business. But you have to understand some of the things when it comes to people and people's philosophies and mindsets, especially, hey, what does this time of year mean to people? Well, if you're struggling to pay your bills, Christmas is an even bigger stressful time. You get the holidays, okay? They wouldn't, a lot of people, they can't, the idea of having a Thanksgiving dinner or having family over or paying for toys for kids is a stressful time. I get it. I've been there. I mean, I never have kids, but I've been down where you're like, oh, it hurts. What are we doing for Thanksgiving? It looks like we're eating cranberry casserole in a can for Thanksgiving. Look, anytime you can try to come to a solution and I like to cut through the bullshit. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Barr, I understand it's a stressful time for you. I have been down this road. What can we do? Are you going to be able, and be honest with me here, because I want to work to create a win-win for you. If you're not going to be able to make these payments on time, then we need to look at getting you out of the property. Do you have somebody you can move in with? You need somebody to move with? I'm willing to give you some cash to move on. Just to sign the property over to us and walk away. So that's foreclosing, where then I'm able to come after you for everything. Why don't we just go ahead and do a cash for keys? It's very simple. You start saying deed in lieu foreclosure, that confuses people sometimes, but cash for keys, you sign the property over, I give you $500 or $1,000 and walk away. And you can start the new year over somewhere new without the stressful of being foreclosed on. Okay. Let's get you out of a bad situation into something good. Hey, if you got to move in with parents for a while, it happens. If you've got to move in with friends, family members, it happens. Look, if you're not working someplace, look, my heart goes out to you. But one thing you have to realize, those that are listening to this, those that are watching this, either on Facebook Live or the replays, you do not run a charity. There's nothing wrong with helping people, but you don't run a charity, okay? You are in this to make money. You are in this for the profit side of what you're doing. Doesn't mean you can't help people, but you also can't give them a mile, okay? You have to realize that people at some point have to realize that they're in the situation where they are today because of the decisions that they have made. Everybody's responsible. It's not Obama's fault. It's not Trump's fault. It's not Bush's fault that everybody's in this place. It is their fault, the individual there. I am where I'm at today because of the decisions I made. You are where you're at today because of the decisions you have all made. Yeah, I've made mistakes. Everybody's made mistakes, okay? But that's the beautiful thing, is you can overcome those mistakes if you start taking action to do things. Pull your head out of your ass and start making action to do things. And sometimes you've got to have that little bit of a kind of a wake up, a little slap to the face, not literally, but you know what I'm talking about with the borrowers. Say, listen, hey, wake up here. Look, our market rent's $600 a month for the same type of property. Your mortgage payment is $350. If you can't pay that, then you've got to look at getting out. Because then you're going to be homeless. You've got, I'll give you 30 days to get out of the property, and at that point, I'll give you $1,000. Okay? But you've got to leave the property in good shape. You keep it clean to get that $1,000. Okay? So we got a couple questions and comments from people on here. Pari says, hey, Pari, way to rock and roll, Pari. Congrats to what you're doing, man. Great info. Scott, my bar wouldn't take the $1,000 I offered after she was living free for close to 3 years. Had to foreclose in 3 weeks. Yeah, that will happen. Some people have been living for free. They don't want to start paying. Oh no, someone's don't have to pay my mortgage. I haven't paid it for 3 years. So that's great, but you do have to pay now. Okay. Brady says, makes you wonder what they did with the money they should have saved for 3 years. Already be compassionate for that level of lack of emotional equity. Brady's commenting to Pari. Yeah, look, I've been down that road before where we didn't make our mortgage payment for 6 months because I was out of work. It's not a fun time. The bank did not offer me, and my bank at that point was Countrywide. Did not offer me cash for keys, but they offered me making chunks to get caught back up, which I had to. I do a forbearance, a trial payment plan for a while. And I was happy for that. But if somebody's living there for 3 years, that's the thing you have to keep in mind. They're living in a place for 3+ years and not paying, they're probably not going to start paying. You're probably going to have to foreclose unless it's something different, okay? Unless you look at the collateral file and you see loan modification paperwork or short sale paperwork, or you see things in the full collateral file from your borrowers, then you know that, hey, they want to stay there. They want to try to work something out, whether it's a loan mod or a forbearance agreement or even a short sale. A short sale package I look at as a positive. Those are great things to have in your collateral files. You're looking at stuff that you see more of the communication from the borrowers to the servicer. Okay. So cash for keys, $500 to $1,000. You never give them the check without accepting the keys and doing a property inspection. Okay. Never, 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 never accept a deed in lieu, cash for keys without inspecting the property. And like I said before, paying the $80, $85 from Pro Title USA to run a title update to see what's on that property. See if there are any junior liens that are going to be behind. Now, in some cases, I accept the deed in lieu where there are smaller liens on the property that I knew that I was going to have to pay. Okay? I knew I was going to have to pay those. Yes, I could take another 12 months to wipe them out. Well, I would end up paying one. I'd have to pay on the taxes or the HOA lien and things like that. So I just went ahead and accepted the deed in lieu, and we took the property back, and we're paying the taxes and other things like that. So you have to run some of the due diligence. Now, my buddy Joel Markovitz, likes to say that out of 10 notes you buy, 3 will reinstate, 3 will do deed in lieus, and the other, 4 to 6, about 50% of the time you're going to foreclose. About 1/4% of the time you get reinstated, and about 1/4% of the time you're going to deed in lieus. So what's important to know about this is always have the agreement written down, specific dates, specific times, and have the borrower sign off on that. Hey, if you're going to accept this, great. Maybe sign off on this, and then the check will be at my attorney's office, or the check will be at my realtor's office once you have completed these things. At this specific date, you've moved out, turned the keys over, and gone from there. Now, you always, what do you do with the keys? Once you get the keys, you change the locks anyway, okay? You go out and change the locks, you secure your property, and make sure that it's taken care of. Now, one thing you can also do when you talk about changing locks, if you've bought a note, bought a property, and it is vacant, okay? It is vacant. Means hey, maybe the power's not on. You need to go change the keys. You need to go lock it. You need to go secure the property. We haven't talked about that yet on an episode. We'll bring on a specialist of some sort to talk about winterizing, things like that later on. But you have the right to go secure your asset. All right. If it's vacant, if it's listed for sale and it's vacant, by all means, go out and change the locks. Okay. Go out and change the locks, secure, because the last thing you want is some strange neighbor coming in stealing stuff or anything like that happen. But make sure you go take care of that. Now, vacant, you can change the locks. You can have your realtor or a locksmith walk through, take photos for you, so you know the condition that's made while you're finishing the foreclosure or the eviction or cancellation of contract. Looks like David asked a question: how does cash for keys affect the borrower's taxes? Do we need to send them special debt forgiveness forms? Yeah, David, you're going to want to still send them a 1098 T? Still send them a 1099, but in most cases, what happens when you send them a 1099 for debt forgiveness? Most of these people are insolvent, and what insolvency means is they have more going out than they have coming in. All right, so what used to happen with short sales, and it still happens this day, is the banks will often send a 1099 to the borrower for the debt they forgive on, or the debt that they forgave, or the amount that they did not get collected back from the sale. All the borrower has to do, I think, is fill out a form 1098 or 928. It's some tax form of the IRS. I'm not an accountant to talk to your accountant, but it's basically insolvency form. So they can write that off, or they're not have to pay taxes on on that 1099 if they prove to be insolvent, which means they have more going out than they coming in. Okay, so it's not anything special debt forgiveness forms. It's just basically sending out 1099 at the end of the year, and that's one thing that it's nice that you can do. Say, listen, I'm sending you this 1099 and forgive it. All you've got to do is when you file your taxes, file this form along with it. Okay, and that's one of the nice things that can happen. Now, one thing too, if somebody's not going to work with me, if somebody's being asked and I have to foreclose, I'm going to still go after them for what I can. One thing that we like to do too, we have a tenant in place, they're not paying rent. Yeah, and we evict them. Yeah, I send them a 1099 at the end of the year for what they owe, their back rent, and any damage they did to the property. I send them a 1099 instead of going after them for a deficiency judgment. I'd rather write that amount off my taxes because it's income to them, right? If they ain't gonna pay it, it's income to them. So send them 1099 for back rent, any updated repairs. I mean, just you can't I'm gonna put new carpet, that would count. But if touch up paint, carpet cleaning, those are expenses that you could send it and get written off that way. So a lot of people don't know about that. But good question, David Masseri, Brady, Pari. Yeah, good stuff there, guys. What are the questions you guys have that are listening via the Facebook Live as we live stream this on the episode? I think that's episode 194. One thing, too, it's hard to believe that we are now been doing the No Closure Show for over a year now. Yes, the podcast's been around for about 60-plus days, but we started doing these Facebook Live videos over a year ago. I had something pop up, a reminder of me throwing ducks over my head on one of the earlier episodes. And I will tell you this, consistency builds success. That's what I'll tell you. Consistency builds success. Some of those episodes are grainy and they're short, and some of them are me ranting on and on a soapbox. And that's okay. It has helped hone what we do now. Doing that previous episodes for 9-10 months and different locations besides here, and having the staff involved in a lot of stuff. It's exciting to see the growth that has come from it, and all you guys that follow us and listen to the show and listen to the videos. We definitely appreciate you. But a year has flown by. It's hard to believe. We started off just doing Facebook Lives just to get an idea, a little bit of a touch every day with our tribe. And I think it goes a long way that we've done it over a year now. A few gaps in here, but not too long, a few days, a week sometimes. But we've been very consistent with it being now our 194th episode with this one. So, but cash for keys, guys, always very easy to do. You can do cash for keys and not be present, but always, always, always have your realtor. And you may have to pay $500 to your realtor to show up to accept the cash for keys. Now, the beautiful thing is I don't have to do that very often because the realtor showing up is often getting the listing. It's going to be their REO. So I often tell them, listen, I'm going to I can either overnight you a check for the borrower. And if you're going to do, one of the things you got to keep in mind too is if you're doing it in like chunks, okay, you get $1,000 to be at this time, $1,000 to leave the property in good shape, and $1,000 to sign off on it. And well, if they only sign off it, but they don't do the other two things, well, I'm only going to give you $1,000. So if you're setting things up, when you overnight it, the check to your attorney or the realtor's office, make sure that you send the checks in, the cashier's checks or the money order, whatever, in increments, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. Because that way, if they don't do part of it, you don't want to pay. Only have one check for 3,000. Oh, I can't, and then you're doing 3,000 for something they didn't accomplish, and you spent more than you needed to. Okay, that's an important thing that I learned the hard way one time. All right, but talk to your realtors and tell them, hey, listen, we're accepting a deed in lieu on this, cash for keys. Do you mind meeting, and just tell them what's going on. Do you mind meeting the borrower at the property? Can you have the locksmith show up with you? I'm overnight your checks. Can you make sure the property's in good condition? Walk through it before you hand over the check to the borrower. And once the keys are handed over and the check is borrowed, make sure you get the locks changed and secure it. And then let's get this puppy listed. Tell me what needs to be fixed. Tell me what updates need to be done to the property, that kind of stuff. That's valuable information so you can get rocking and rolling. Okay? Brady Durr, I appreciate that, buddy. Brady says, Scott, I would have stopped this journey a long time ago without your voice and face and WCM team in my face every day. Well, we try not to be in your face every day, but we're proud of what you're doing, Brady. Go out and send some more emails, bud. Go out and make some things happen. So we have literally, if you look at the schedule, would it be November 6th? There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks left in the year. All right. And January 1st lands on a Monday. Okay. Lands on a Monday, which that's New Year's Day. Many places will be closed. So most people aren't going to start the week till Tuesday, the 2nd. Well, we are already planning out. I have things on the calendar through April already. We have things on the calendar through actually April and May right now. So how far in advance are you planning out? I mean, we got stuff 6 months out. People always ask me, well, can you come speak here? Can you come to this? I'm like, no, I've already got things planned. I've already got stuff scheduled for that stuff. So like we are excited because literally less than a month away from our December mastermind taking place here in Austin, Texas. We're so excited about that. We got some great stuff lined up for those that are in attendance, for those that are coming into Austin and spend 3 days with us. Really, really stoked about some of the great relationships that we've made and the amazing stories that we're hearing from people out there. We're seeing, all right, people closing deals from our mastermind and new students. And so we're excited to bring everybody together in December for people to share their victories and their defeats too, and their struggles. We always have a fun time here in Austin. We've got some great stuff. It's going to be downtown. It's going to be 3 days of really great fun and networking with everybody and people really making things happen going into the next year. And so, it's always, December is usually our largest event of the year because it brings down a couple of things. One, there's usually a lot of assets available from banks that we get together on. It's also a great time for people to start really kind of building that and planning their next year. And that's one of the things we'll be focused on big in the December mastermind is where do they go from here? Where does 2018 hit? Where do we go as a business wise, whether it's individually or as we grow as an industry? And we're going to have a little bit of a peek into some of the things that, the forecasting and what to expect in 2018 on. Actually, tonight would be Monday night. If you're watching this on the Facebook Live, great. If you're listening on the podcast, you can catch the replay to tonight's webinar, 2018 Note Market Predictions. And so we'll talk a little about some things that we're seeing, what we're talking with people, some of the trends that we see taking place right now, and looking forward to what next year will hold for everybody. And I've got to make adjustments to my business. Everybody's got to adjust their business depending on what the market does. Whether it's going up or it's going down or staying flat, you've got to adjust what you're doing on a daily basis or monthly basis so that you can take advantage of where the market at. Because there's money being made in every market, whether it's good, bad, or flat. There is money to be made in every industry. You just can't keep doing the same thing that you've done before. I can't keep doing the same thing I've done this year. I've got to adjust things going into 2018. I'm already making adjustments for things. You have to do that as well. And one of the things that we ramp on and we harp on people day in, day out, and stuff like that, is that if you are doing the things that you are supposed to be doing, i.e. a lot of the marketing, the more marketing you've done, the better prepared you are to make changes. okay? The better you are prepared to adjust what you do because you already have the audience, your tribe at your disposal listening to what you're doing. And so if you're not prepared for that because you haven't done anything, you're just sitting back on your thumbs, it's going to be even harder for you to launch things when markets change because you may just be listening to people or doing things that you had to do in 2017. Well, 2018 may be a different market. So we'll focus on a lot of that good stuff tonight on the Note Night in America and get rocking and rolling along with that. So, Casey, we're glad to be back, buddy. Stephanie Goodman Johnson posts on here. If you have any question about the upcoming mastermind in December or how you can be a part of this amazing event, let Scott or myself know in the comments and we'll reach out to you. Yeah, you can always email me at scott@weclosenotes.com or email Stephanie at stephaniegoodman@gmail.com. And she or myself will give you a phone call to visit with you, talk about the little mastermind group. And we do have a few sneak peek passes if you'd like to. You're on the fence, want to see what the mastermind's a little bit more about. We do offer some sneak peek passes up. We've got a couple spots available, I think 3 or 4 available for the December mastermind, where you can come in, spend 3 days. Doesn't make you part of the mastermind, but it gives you an opportunity to come in, sit, and see what everybody else is doing and see whatever it's all about and see if it's the real deal. And I tell you this, it's the real deal, everybody. All right? It is a true Note family and just a phenomenal group. It's actually the 3 weeks or the 3 weekends we have a year with the Note Mastermind is my favorite 3 weekends out of the year because it's such a good time to hang with people and see what amazing things that people are doing out there. So we're looking forward to that. But anyway, back to the topic today, cash or keys, everybody. It's not difficult. It's just basically if you want that option, you need to be prepared for that option, actually is what I should say, instead of wanting that option. Be prepared for it. Talk about it with your servicer. Talk about it with your attorneys. Say, hey, we'd like them to do this. This is what we'd like for them to do. If they won't do this, then this is our plan B. Either do you offer deed in lieu or cash for keys. And we're willing to do this on a couple of different scenarios. Okay? So one of the things I will often tell them is like, listen, if they want to do cash for keys, let's see exactly, the situation that they're in. All right. Do they have some place they can move to? Do they have some place? Because then it could be just a deed in lieu where they can just walk away scot-free. Start with 0 and I'll crank our way up to 500, 1,000, 2,000 and go from there. I don't usually go above 10,000. It's got to be a lot of equity in the deal for me. Equity for me meaning they owe a lot, but I bought the loan relatively cheap. Okay. So once again, everybody, I know that a lot of people had a great time this last Friday, Saturday at the Note Expo in Dallas. I'm sure Eddie put on an amazing event. Unfortunately, we were unable to make it due to illness. We had tickets. Eddie was kind enough to comp us in for helping do a little bit of promotion and talking about it. So we appreciate that from Mr. Speed. But unfortunately, we had the flu and didn't move from the couch much this past weekend. So it's good to be back, get our energy, our feet, our legs up underneath us and get rock and rolling as we've got a very busy 2 months of the year. So yeah, like this month, like this weekend, like I said, I'm in Ohio at Cincinnati at the Ohio area. The following weekend, I'm in San Diego for Aaron Young's Lawful Associates event, Magnify Your Wealth Summit. Grow in 2017 is how you can get signed up for that. And then after that, literally 3 days after that, with the fast track. And then, of course, that's Thanksgiving. And then after that is the mastermind week. So, whoo, busy, busy, busy. And then we got our last class of the year, the 15th, 16th, and 17th of December. So seats are still available to the December virtual workshop if you want to grab your seat to that. So our thoughts and prayers do go out to the tragedy that took place in Tennessee last week, but then also the tragedy that took place in south of San Antonio at the church. It's just unfortunate. Unfortunately, it's something I think we're going to probably see a lot more of. We've already seen more of it the last couple of years. I think that we've been very blessed in the United States not to have that happen all the time. But if you look abroad in other countries, it's almost I hate to say it's a regular occurrence that happens. And unfortunately, I don't think it has anything to do with guns. It's got to do with people. And that's what it all comes down to is the people. We live in kind of a dark place sometimes. So once again, our prayers thoughts and prayers go out to the community and then the victims' families and stuff like that. Our prayers and thoughts are with you. So But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for episode 194, I believe, of the Note Closer Show. Thank you, Nicole, for posting. Once again, if you want to get signed up for Aaron Young's event, growin2017.com. It's a great event, great place to raise capital, great people. Aaron just does a phenomenal job with the taxes and asset protection. And if that's something that's important to you, that is the event to go to. So otherwise, guys, have a great Monday. Go out and make something happen, and we'll see you all at the top, everybody.